I've only been able to have conversations like that in graduate seminars, in the highest quality graduate seminars, in the most elite universities, now and then, even though I was placed to have those conversations. 2 hours on a single topic, covered in as much depth as possible, by someone who's a world authority. And now I can have that conversation with people, and 150,000 to 1 million people can have access to it instantly.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 343. Hope you're amazing as always. Do you know why this month is special? Well, there's a few reasons why this month is special, right? But the main reason is it's my birthday. That's not the main reason, but it's a pretty good reason. It's my birthday end of the month. And do you know what? It's you've probably, if you've been a regular listener for the past 7 years, you know that I love birthdays. I love New Year's Eve, and there's a few different reasons. It gives us a chance to reflect. Now, what do I mean by that? It gives us a chance to think. It gives us a chance to look back at the decisions that we've made over the past 12 months. It gives us a chance to look at the highs, the lows. It gives us a chance to look at the people that came, the people that went, and really, are we closer to becoming that version of us that we know we're supposed to be? And that, I think, is a big, big difference in people's focus. Because people focus on the external. And the external is awesome, but the external is created first in the internal, inside. It's created in your imagination. It's created in your vision. It's created from your intuition. It's created from everything that's programmed and pre-programmed and genetically inside of you. Now, people talk about free will and non-free will. Well, I really believe there's a bit of both, right? Genetically, we're definitely destined to make certain decisions, right? Because that's what genetics is showing, right? That we pass on belief systems, traumas, as well as blue eyes and brown hair. Yeah, I've got blue eyes and brown hair. But it also passes on so much more. So we've got to also be in a little battle again to heal the past or change the neurology in our brain. And so every 12 months, I get to have a little look. And one of the biggest things that I've had realization over the past probably, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, but definitely 6 months, is, well, the world and media is really, really changing. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really changing. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you've seen the stats with CNN not even getting 1 million, and then people like Rogan getting 11 million views an episode. But it's just more than that, right? And Rogan's in there's a lot of focus on him right now. But understand that it's just, if you step out and look in and don't have emotional attachment to anything, and we really just looked in on what is happening in a macro level, right? 30,000 foot view, we can see there's been a shift. And this shift has been going on for quite a while, and it's called social media. Don't know if you knew about it, you know what I mean? You got these things called Instagram and Facebook and that. And even Facebook's getting hurt right now, right? So what I'm here to say is that I used to ignore social media. I really, really did. And I'm not talking about specifically what platform, and I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Who cares, right? Who cares? Even if it's your own app. Your own app's even better, by the way. And that's what we're coming out with the Radical Formula and my own app in the future, probably this year, you know? And I say all this because it's mind blowing. Like we were taught, if you're into digital marketing, right? You're online building a business. What were we taught? We were taught over the past 5-6 years that you've got to build a funnel. Websites are completely outdated. You just need to use Facebook ads basically, and drive it to a funnel. The funnel to whatever webinar, video series, whatever, and then people will buy. Well, yeah. That's still true. It's absolutely still true. It's what we've got for the Genius Trader and also the Radical Formula. We're just finishing off the webinar for the Radical Formula. But yeah, you can go right now and click radicalformula.com and you can get a 15-minute video, which is me and Ryan teaching you about marketing and mindset hacks so you can create massive income in 2022. No matter where you are, it's about success engineering. So what I'm here to say is that you have to really lean into this because as I said before, I fought against this for years. I just didn't care. You know what I mean? I just build my thing. I'd earn good money. I'd help people. The podcast brought me a lot of attention and leads. But now it's so much more than that. It's so important. It's not something we can dismiss anymore, and it's not something that we should push against, and it's not something that we should hide from. It's really not. If you're trying to build a brand in 2022, you need to understand how to engineer it. You need to understand that it could be a massive network of 1 billion people, 1 million people, 100,000 people, or it could be a few hundred or 10,000. It's about small communities. It's about small communities that love you. Why? Because you're bringing them so much joy. You're bringing them so much, education, entertainment. You're leading them as a mentor. That's what 2022 is about. It's about micro niches. And that's what we share again in the Radical Formula. It's all about building that powerful community. But why? Because if you're just selling crap, then, you can use these tactics like, I suppose it's like a doctor, right? Or a surgeon. A scalpel. You can kill people with it, but you can really cure and save lives with it. And that's why it's important. And if you really are, spinning in circles, or you've got a powerful message to get out there, then we really have to take charge of understanding what this concept is, because this concept isn't only about one thing: reaching people that you want to help. That's it. Reaching people that you want to help, or people reaching you that want to get helped. Does that make sense? Because if we become a specialist in what we do, we could be a plumber, a joiner, right? In the old world, it's kind of necessity still, right? Or we can become whatever, right? A coach, an SEO person, a marketing specialist. We can help people get over a specific problem. We can help people walk again. We can help homeless people. We can help kids feel better. It doesn't matter. If you've got a real big message that you've got to create and push into the world, and I use the word push intentionally then because there's so much noise, and that's why branding's so important. That's why mental performance, so you can step into absolute creativity and confidence, is so important in 2022, because you've got to be lasered right through to the target like a bullseye on a dartboard, because if you're creating a blast of a flashlight, you're going to get lost. And so these are all superpowers that I don't know. I'm an expert. I'm a black belt in mental performance for sure. But I'm not a black belt in marketing. I'm probably a green belt, maybe a purple belt. I'm on my way. But there's so many more skilled people. Why? Because they've dedicated their whole life to it. And again, that's why I connected with Ryan. He's done this for 25 years and worked with NFL, Verizon, Apple, and everybody else. So what this means is that I'm just trying to distill for you the absolute importance. Because my old way of feeling about it was it was establishment. And I kind of rebel against that kind of stuff, rebel against establishment, being what I'm doing, what I'm told, things like that. That's why I've bounced around the world for 20 years. 20 years this year, it's crazy. And but I was kind of right, but I'm kind of wrong. Do you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is I don't care how you build your network, your community, your tribe. I don't care. You could use social media, you can use email, you could stand on a box in the middle of a town every single day for an hour and get your community that way, right? I don't care. What's important is that you understand the power of it. Now, what we get told is that you need millions of followers to create impact. And especially on social media, especially on Instagram, right? It's all about the numbers. But it's not. But we think it is. Because we're taught by other marketers who are selling that concept that it is all about the numbers. But it's not. I know people out there that have 100,000 people and they've created $24 million. I know people that have created $2 million and they've got under 10,000 followers on Instagram. Oh, by the way, no email list, no funnel, no paid ads, things like that. So the rules have been destroyed how you want to do this. It's been destroyed. But what you've got to understand is that there's a new way of doing everything this year. There really, really is. What worked before works, but will it continue working? I don't know. So the power is back in your hands, and that's the beautiful thing, and that's what I'm here to share with you. You can create your own media empire. You can. It could be 10 people in that media empire. It could be 1 billion people in that media empire. But as long as you're able to create impact and change lives, then you're doing the right thing. Does this make sense? So rather than leaning out and wondering what's going wrong, we've got to lean in and find out what's going right. And if you've got such a big passion, you've got to get it out to the world one way or another. Yes, passion is a different topic, and should we be following our passion to really create income for us and our family? Maybe, maybe not. That's a micro and macro level conversation, and probably a conversation for another time, and a conversation I had last week with Ryan. So that's on the videos. Actually, it's on our podcast that we'll be launching. Yeah, we just blasted out 7 episodes over the past 2 weeks, and that's getting ready to launch. So that's the Radical Formula. Yes, yes, yes. And another thing, you know, why I'm going to be showing clips from Jordan Peterson. And if you don't know Jordan, check him out. He's a madman, but amazing at the same time, and absolutely hyper intelligent, true genius, and a psychologist. And he has some very interesting perspectives on futurism, about what the trending is going to be happening. And we have to pay attention to this. It doesn't mean you've got to take it on, but we've got to be aware of this stuff. I'm also going to be sharing another clip by Gary Vaynerchuk, who talks about exactly this and why every business owner has to have their own platform, whatever that means to them. And it's because of outreach. And this puts the power back in our hands. When I spoke about like the old normal traditional media dying, it's true. It's absolutely true. And that's why I say with Facebook right now, it's taken a hit because the new generation coming through don't really care about Facebook. So it's for an older generation. And that's why you have these new platforms coming through, and there's other ones that decentralized platforms that are coming through. And it's just, there's so many ways to connect with people these days. And the truth is, no industry is saturated. No industry is saturated, because you can say the same thing 100 times and someone else will say it differently. There's no industry that's saturated because we're not connecting with nearly 8 billion people in the world, right? It's just not like that. So whatever you're doing, there is a way. Whatever you're doing, you can win. But the power has to come back into your hands. Does this make sense? Okay, good. That's my little rant to start with today. But it's definitely a powerful little rant. As I say, I've really understood this the last 6 months. So make sure that you're hanging out with me on all social media platforms. Andy Murphy Mindset. You can find me. Very easy, very easy. So make sure you're doing that. And before we jump into today's episode, make sure that you're hitting show notes up. Or if you're a trader, if you're doing crypto, stocks, options, Forex, whatever it is, and you want the premier mental performance training system for traders in the world, then there's only one place to go. TheGeniusTrader.club. The Genius Trader Club. Yes, go there and check it out. There's a nice big 45-minute training where I show you the ins, the outs, and everything that you need to know about the course. But I'm also going to share with you some tactics and strategies that you absolutely can implement and apply today. So go and do that. Obviously, we spoke about the awesome RadicalFormula.com. But right now on the RadicalFormula.com, before we move it to somewhere else, you can grab a 15-minute mindset and marketing training. Well, it's really a mindset and marketing hack where Ryan shows you 7 key marketing steps that you must implement. And I show you the number one scientific reason, neuroscience reason, why you keep holding yourself back and sabotaging and not quite hitting the next level. And this is called a consumer investor effect and the snapback effect. And you're going to learn all about that for free in 15 minutes. 15 minutes? You got 15 minutes, haven't you? Right. Well, head over to the RadicalFormula.com and jump onto that right now. What else? Genius Trader, Radical Formula. Connect with me, Andy Murphy Mindset, on all platforms. And let's go and kick ass together. Let's make 2022 your best year ever. And time to take action. So let's jump in to today's episode. And I'll see you at the end of the show.
I highly recommend, my friends, for you to become a practitioner, not a headline reader, of the current state of the internet. It's called social networks on the cell phone. It's also called podcasts on podcast networks. It's vlogging on YouTube. It's writing long-form articles on LinkedIn. And maybe your industry is boring.
So I work insurance right now, and the first question I have is, how can I bring value and as a consumer for you, Gary? What would you say on this? How can I bring value without coming across as a salesman?
One more time. How do you bring value as to other people to then do business with you?
Yes.
By watching what I do, right? Like, there's a lot of people who buy their wine now from my dad's store or from Empathy Wines because I bring them value at all times. And then occasionally I mention what I do or what I'm passionate about, right? So the way you bring value without being too selly is by not being selly.
Right. But
also, like the last lady, being okay with asking for the sale once in a while. So you put out as much content, whether it's about Kansas, whether it's about esports, whether it's about insurance, whether it's about, beard culture. You get people to know you. I'm being serious though. Your beard might be the single reason you sell the most insurance. Because nobody, insurance is boring.
That's what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Why do you think there's Geico and Progressive, and the Flow and Snoopy for MetLife? Insurance is so fucking boring. They have to create characters.
Right. And I don't want to do what you've said in an interview before is I don't want to sell fear. That's
right.
One reason, you said that you wouldn't sell insurance is because of how you sell it,
Well, I would sell practicality though.
Okay.
Some people are like, what if he dies? That's fear. But if you're like, hey, listen, unfortunately, as we all know, one day something will happen and it's nice to have this in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going?
So crew, just let me jump in there. That was a good little section, right? Because we started out by Gary on stage saying what? Well, whatever platform that you like, in whatever format, you can build your little media empire or your big media empire, right? So it's talking about long form articles on LinkedIn, chopping up videos on different platforms, whatever it works for you. But do you see the key statement? The key statement through all of what he was talking about, even with this insurance guy, he said insurance is boring and he didn't want to push the pain, right? He didn't want to push the pain because, well, there's enough pain in the world, right? And so we don't need to create something called a symptomatic pain, which brings somebody into the now, so they pay attention, and then they take action. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but come on, you know what I mean? There's enough pain going on. We need a bit of pleasure. And so what he spoke about there was value. Do you see that? Value are just bringing value to the audience, just making them, as I said before, entertaining them, educating them, and not going, you got to buy this, you got to buy this. Although it will work for some people, right? It will. It's like, all right, I'll buy this. But the truth is, what it's really about is just somebody being so addicted to being around you because they get so much value that what you put out, they want. Because they've already implemented your advice, your knowledge, your tactics in the past, and that was for free. So then guess what? Of course they're going to want to purchase something. Of course they're going to want to be around something. And not everybody is able to afford a $300, $500 million package. But most people can afford $50 and $80. So if you have a variety of options, people, as they get value from one thing, is they'll move up the ladder. And again, people talk about the value ladder being stupid and people, you just want to purchase, you just want to sell the highest end ticket. Well, maybe. But also, isn't it nice just to get to know somebody? Isn't it nice to actually get a little bit of advice and see it works rather than purchasing a massive thing? Well, maybe. Different people, different audience, different ways of creating value. So it depends on you and how much rapport you actually have with these people. And is this marketing today? No, it's not marketing today. It's all around mindset. It's all around you understanding your perspective of the world and understanding your own psychology and that person who you're wanting to talk to psychology. Because if you don't, then you don't even know what they want. And if you don't know what they want, how are you going to help them? Does this make sense? So, again, let's go back to Gary.
Right.
Not everyone is interesting. Not all content is interesting. Real estate as an industry is not always the most interesting.
Who says?
Oh, me.
Right. You're one fucking dude, Dick.
I know.
You don't get to say.
Fair enough.
Right?
But you say I do.
No, you do for you.
Right.
But not for the consumer.
True enough.
The end. This is a very important, I'm jumping in and making a joke to make a very big point. Some people think it's really boring to watch men run into each other and play football. I think it's the most interesting shit in the world. Other people decide watching 6 episodes of Escaping R. Kelly is fucking fascinating. I do not. The audience gets to decide. So I keep telling people here, they're like, I'm not interesting. I'm like, the only thing you've got is that you're actually interesting because you're uniquely you. The biggest advantage everybody here has when it comes to this concept is their truth. But everybody tries to do what's the right thing to do, and they start to vanilla themselves.
So go deeper and deeper into content, as deep as I can get.
Correct. About anything, like, tripped today. Hurt my ankle. Post.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Third comment's gonna be like, I fucking hurt my ankle too today. We're humans, guys. We're humans. I mean it. It's why reality TV won. Reality TV got shit on. Social media got shit on. The closer to the truth, the better. We like it. It's why we rubberneck. It's why we try to sit and listen to other people's conversations. It's what we do. We're interested. And so we have to talk about more,
So I can tell that this clip's old. Because Gary Vaynerchuk doesn't call people dick anymore. He used to a lot. He used to F and blind and all the rest of it, but he doesn't really say the word fuck anymore. He doesn't. He's actually become kind and gentle, which is very strange. I'm not sure if he did some plant medicine or something, but he's definitely become nicer. Or he's probably always nice, but now he's coming from a different angle. Maybe he understood his consumer more. I don't know. Or maybe the audience changed as we've changed over time, right? So, but what he spoke about there was being authentically you. And then he spoke about by being authentically you and understanding your audience, what can you do? You can do something called pacing. Pacing them means meeting them where they are right now. And what is the benefit of that? Well, they can relate. So what you're able to do is build rapport. That's it, rapport. So if you can build rapport through whatever platform you're building connection with your audience with, then it's awesome, right? Because they want to hang out with you. And that's the biggest thing, right? Whoever it is, Elon Musk. Some people hate him, some people love him. But Elon Musk, if Elon Musk was showing you his trainers or his sneakers for you Americans, but his trainers or his sneakers every single day or something like that, he'd start building an audience around people that can relate to him, who like sneakers or trainers, but also realize that he's a normal human being. That's why one of the best things that he did was to go on Rogan a couple of times, because a 3-hour format of an interview, you got to know Elon in much, much deeper than we've had before, like when he goes on stage and does these real corporate-y interviews. Now, did it hurt the brand, help the brand? Your choice. But the truth is, we got to know him more, which meant that we then could like or hate him more. And either way, he's getting attention. And if you're getting attention, then you're able to leverage that attention as long as it's the right way. I mean, look who's out there right now, the Island Boys, right? I don't even know what they're selling, but they're doing all right. You know, they could probably do live concerts. They can put stuff out. They can promote things. They've created a little brand for themselves. Are they talented? Most people would say no. But I'm here talking about the Island Boys. So they've done something right? If you don't know who those are, get onto YouTube. No, actually, it won't be on YouTube. It'll be TikTok. It'll be Instagram. Just Google them. Instagram them. But again, they created attention, which creates leverage by being authentically them. And then they're able to connect with people and then promote. That's what's going on. They're just leveraging someone else's platform, a free content platform. It's not free, obviously, when we talk about data, but it's free, meaning that we can just jump on it here and now, right? So being authentically you, creating massive value, having that right... constantly building rapport is how you connect and build with your audience. So, on that note, let's jump back in.
When I hear trust as Karen, who just got motivated finally because I'm putting pressure on the system and she's gonna make her LinkedIn video, she hears trust and she's gonna start with a heavy sell up front. I've been doing this for 23 years, right? Whereas meanwhile, the way that Karen would have gotten my business is by making a reference to the Jets game against the Eagles this weekend. Because that's relevance. Or,
Absolutely.
Or being an immigrant.
Absolutely.
Or liking root beer. This is why I push people to show every part of their lives. You never know if it's heavy metal, right? Or it's growing up with, immigrant parents, right? Or sports culture, right? Like, you don't know what the relevance is, but there's always relevance.
For sure.
And the number one advantage everybody has on the other side of this is the most unique thing about you is you. It is peeing your pants in second grade, a story I've shared. It is, the way I became a Jets fan because I needed something to latch on to America, something I shared. My report card, something. You know how many people follow me because they sucked in high school too?
It's relatable.
It's relevance.
Relevance.
And it's true.
Yep.
I like hip hop music. I like football. Notice how little I talk about fucking video games. I fucking am very aware that video game culture is a great content pillar for me to play on. But I have to share when I do, I have to share that I can beat everybody in ice hockey for Nintendo because that's the last time I was a gangster in video games. 1987.
Super Tech Mobile.
I don't talk about Fortnite. I talk about the culture of Fortnite. So you stay in your lane, you stay around your passions, and you build a community around interests.
Love it.
And then when you're localized around that interest, you put out a LinkedIn piece of content around Zelda. You sell mortgages in fucking Des Moines, Iowa, and you find yourself 8 weeks later in a coffee shop with 11 people, all dressed up as fucking Link and Peach, and 4 days later, you closed your biggest deal. That's way better than a direct mail piece or a cold call or a fucking bench ad.
Absolutely.
A lot of the stuff that people want to talk about puts them in a position of right hook land, which then gets regulated. But there's a lot of other advice and content that can be put out that doesn't require all the disclaimers because it's a little more vanilla than you should do this.
And I think that's where actually we're uniquely positioned in that something.
Real quick, because I don't want to forget it. Or you could make content that's fairly vanilla that leads to phone calls.
And that's part of the second follow-up. So we are a really unique position that our company actually gives about $300 million to charity and communities a year. And so I can talk about that and have no regulation.
You could talk about golf and it could lead to financial services.
Yep.
This is where people are very confused. There's a lot of people who started watching my content because they like the New York Jets and that's the content they saw. They also happen to be into entrepreneurship or marketing. One of the weird things there was this one ad I ran years ago, early Facebook, where it was like, I don't want to make it up, but it was super narrow. I'm going to use this as a make pretend, but it wasn't wine. It was something else, but I was trying to sell something for a client. And let's just call it wine. And even though I would target Pinot Noir and wine and the Wine Spectator and Robert Parker, the number one thing that converted was fans of Britney Spears. I'm being dead serious. And why I'm telling that story right now is one of the things many of you should debate if you're a one-woman, one-man shop or a service-based business, but you're the foremost passionate expert on Pokemon or on European soccer or on having a garden in your backyard because it's your favorite thing, you would be fascinated by the shit that leads to your business results as long as you lean into something you really love and really know.
So you gotta love Gary, right? You gotta love Gary, and he makes a lot of sense. And although some of those clips were quite old, the relevance, right? You spoke about relevance. Relevance is still there. Maybe the tactics have changed, the strategies have changed, the algorithms have definitely changed, but the understanding of it's just connecting with people hasn't changed. So what I want to bring up next is a clip of Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson is that little clip I showed you at the very, very start. But what I want to share with you is this is why mainstream media is dying, basically. And this is why we are we're kind of like the babies. I was the last generation. Maybe you'll listen to this in the same, but I was the last generation that was born before the internet and after the internet. And lots of people my age and older, yes, I'm 44 this month, in 3 weeks, good Lord. But I like this age, by the way, and there's a whole different conversation I'll get into. I really like this age. It's so much easier because your way of thinking and seeing the world is so much better. But back to my point, it's social media is still brand new. Do you know what I mean? As we move into VR and augmented reality, and yes, the metaverse in the future, it will be Ready Player One. If you've never seen that movie, go watch that movie. I believe it will be like that in the future. I really, really do. And I know Facebook is just taking a massive hit right now because I think Mark Zuckerberg jumped into the concept too early, and I think they lost 300 billion or something crazy in value. Numbers could be completely off, but you get what I'm saying, right? So they're still testing and measuring everything, and although his the viewer, is that the right word? The users, it's probably a better word. The users of Facebook are obviously changing, right? So these other platforms are coming through and they're doing way, way better. But does that not mean Facebook's not still relevant? Well, it seems to be damn relevant still, doesn't it, So we're at the very beginning of this whole journey, this whole ride into all of this. And we should capitalize on this. Do you know what I mean? It's still kind of like the wild, wild west, but we can really make ourselves a lot of money and we can help a lot of people because it's still very novel. You just have to be even more novel. And like Gary says back in there, how you be novel or how you create a USP, a unique selling point or proposition is how. Yeah, be you, man. Be you. And that's it. So I'm going to jump into Jordan and then I'll jump in to, give him my 2 cents worth.
And you can see, and I see this so interesting too, the legacy media types they're done. They're so done. It's happened so fast. I notice among young people that the legacy media, the big magazines, the newspapers, the TV stations, the radio stations for that matter, all of whom had a monopoly on this kind of information flow, are so dead to people under 30 that it's as if their death isn't even noticed. And that's fascinating. And yesterday I interviewed Richard Tremblay, and Richard Tremblay is in his 80s, and he's a scientist who studied male aggression, a research scientist who studied male and female aggression for 40 years. And he's won the criminologist's equivalent of the Nobel Prize and the Order of Canada, which is Canada's knighthood for all intents and purposes. Hundreds of publications, a very distinguished scientist. And we had a 2-hour conversation, and I thought afterwards, I've only been able to have conversations like that in graduate seminars, in the highest quality graduate seminars, in the most elite universities, now and then, even though I was placed to have those conversations. 2 hours on a single topic, covered in as much depth as possible, by someone who's a world authority. And now I can have that conversation with people, and 150,000 to 1 million people can have access to it instantly. It's like, I think God only knows what that is going to be, the consequence of that. So it's so fun to play around with this and to experiment with it. And it's such a privilege to be able to do it. And there's so much possibility in it. So, and I've also been trying to figure out what I'm doing with the podcasts themselves, because that's really what I've been doing a lot of for the last 4 months. And I listened to this. I was interviewed by a Wall Street journalist last week, and I asked him what he liked about podcasts, because he listened to them a lot. And he said, I really like to see where they're going. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. Because in a legacy media interview, everything is scripted and you're never talking to a person. You're talking to the corporation, essentially. And I'm not being cynical about that. It had to be that way because bandwidth was so expensive. But now you can sit down with someone and you can risk exploration. Of course, that's what Joe Rogan has been doing so well for so many years. You can risk exploration. You can have two people having a genuine discussion about a complex issue. And so they're engaging in dialectical thinking. And if they're good at it, they're modeling it. So they can model high quality dialectical thinking and pull people along on an exploratory journey and make it permanent. And that's completely revolutionary. That's never been possible before. And the possibilities are limitless. And then, sorry, I'm going to rant about this a bit because I am so continually staggered by this. The next thing is you can take those conversations and you can chop them up into 30-second pieces, minute-long pieces, 5-minute-long pieces, 20-minute-long pieces, and each of those can find a specialized home that can attract millions of views.
So, crew, that interview actually goes on for quite a while, probably another like 10 or 15 minutes. But my point to all of this is, right, what are you doing that's creating uniqueness? How are you putting yourself out in the world? How are you sharing your knowledge, your brand, you know? And I'm not talking about these Muppets that sell, You know, they're not really experts. If you go to white belt to black belt, they are definitely white belts, or maybe they've got a little stripe on the belt, but then they're charging massive prices for their knowledge, and they're just hurting people. There's a lot of people like that in the coaching industry, and there's a lot of people like that in agencies and services. You know, so that's just the pitfall of all of this. Everybody thinks they're an expert until they meet an expert, right? So what my whole point to this is, take your power back. Take control again. You know what I mean? Don't think that Facebook and funnels is the only way. It's a great way. It is a way. Don't think that Instagram is the way. And don't think that having 1 million followers is the way. It's a way. It's about micro niches. It's about engineering success. It's about being able to create a vision and have confidence to step into that world. It's about you receiving the haters. It's about you receiving the fans. It's about you not caring and you being genuine and you just going for it. And it doesn't matter what platform or how you want to do this. People say use them all. Maybe not, right? Depends on your demographic. It depends on how you want to output the media. It just depends. But all of this, we're wrapping it up in a bow right now. All of this comes to one thing. I love what he said, right? Under 30, the old media like CNN and all of these other things, newspapers, magazines, no one buys them, man. That's why, like, no one watches cable. No one watches TV. Nobody does. Why? Because it's not what they're into. It's not their preferred method of distribution. It's not their preferred method of learning and inputting information. So it's dying. And so you can either thrive or you can die. So let's go and thrive, man. Let's go and thrive. And speaking of thriving, I think that's the end of today's episode. End of episode 343. So let's wrap this up. Make sure that you are doing something different. What are you going to do? Well, if you want to learn how you can really get eyeballs on you in 2022 and create micro communities and be micro famous, hit 7 figures, then guess what? Yeah, come and learn. There's a 15-minute training right now. It's for free and it's by me and Ryan Alford and it's in the radicalformula.com. Go there right now. Do yourself a favor. And also, yeah, if you're a trader, head over to thegeniustrader.club and take a look at what we've got going on there, because that is the premier mental performance training for a trader at any different level. So please go and kick ass, go and do your thing. Make sure you're hanging out with me, any platform, Andy Murphy Mindset or Andy Murphy Mind, you will find me. I just want to help. I love you lots. And speaking of loving you lots, you have an amazing week. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.